Hey, Dr. C here with you. Got a really good question sent in. Someone wrote in and said, hi, Dr. C, I love your recipes, but I see that many of them use ginger. Don't we have to avoid ginger if we have thyroid problems? So yeah, I'm super happy to dive into this question because, um, there's two sides to this in general. On one side, there really are some things that can affect your thyroid health that you wouldn't expect, that are completely counterintuitive. So you've got to be mindful and think about that. On the other hand, there's so many things that are talked about that, I don't know, they engender a lot of unnecessary fear. And that by itself is unnecessary and it's fearful. It's not good. The more we're worried about our daily activities and our foods, that by itself is a harmful thing. So we can't ignore health concerns, but I'm always happy when I can take away undue concerns and undue fear. So let's talk about ginger and how it could be a bad thing for your thyroid. Well, there's two ways in which I've seen this written about as being harmful for the thyroid. The first one is with the Th1 issues. Now, the general idea for some years, it was thought that Th1, Th2 ratios, and I'm sorry, these are immune regulatory cells, that the ratios between these cells were important drivers of autoimmunity and therefore thyroid disease. Some books talked about this theory, and it was a theory that immunologists were considering. And to extend that, the thought is that many people with thyroid disease have too much Th1 activity, they're Th1 dominant. And the concern is that ginger is thought to raise Th1 activity. So to put all this together, if you've got thyroid disease, if your Th1 to 2 ratio is important, and you're Th1 dominant, you want to avoid Th1 dominant things, which would include ginger, things that elevate Th1 activity, which would include ginger. So to address that, by 2015, the whole theory of Th1, Th2 dominance being a driver of autoimmunity or being relevant in general was pretty well discredited. So it's no longer one that's taken seriously. And I did watch it in the formative years, and I did guess right in that there was a lot of conclusions being drawn that were just ahead of the research, that were too speculative and not yet borne out. And there was a lot of lists about herbs and foods and various things being good or bad based upon their Th1, Th2 effects. And it was plausible, but I wasn't convinced the evidence was just there yet to support that. And it was also kind of appealing because gave people a sense of almost like power or control, that they could choose these things or choose that thing. And it gave a sense of ways to really individualize the diet or their practices, or it gave people explanations for, it seemed like that could be why things didn't work if they were getting foods from the wrong list. But none of it really panned out. So we can let go of all that. So no negatives for ginger for that reason. Now, the only other thing I could think of that I dug deep on this, there was a case report. There was a written case report of a woman who seemed to develop subacute thyroiditis after ingesting a fair amount of ginger. Now, here's some details on this thing. It was a 34-year-old woman, and she had symptoms of thyroid pain and swelling, fever, racing heart. This was treated with non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, beta blockers, and steroids, and by and large, her symptoms improved. And this seemed to come on after she was consuming ginger on a daily basis for a few weeks. She had some powdered ginger. It gets weirder. So then a year later, she ate ginger candy and these symptoms seemed to come back, but they resolved quickly on their own and just went away. So let's talk through this situation. Well, so subacute thyroiditis, what is that? Well, it's not related to Hashimoto's. It's not an autoimmune version of thyroid disease. We don't know exactly why it happens, but it seems to be driven by viral infections. So some people who get a cold, a flu, Epstein-Barr, something like that, they develop this acute thing, which is almost like a cold of the thyroid. The thyroid itself is sore, and the person feels feverish and run down, and their thyroid function is radically altered. However, it's quite self-limiting. It can be more common during or just after pregnancy, but it can come on apart from pregnancy. Now, overall, it's very rare. It normally does go away on its own. And this is a brief aside, the talk about Epstein-Barr being a driver of thyroid disease, that's where that came from. Epstein-Barr is one of many viruses that may be related to subacute thyroiditis, but there's actually no data saying it has any connections to Hashimoto's thyroiditis or hypothyroidism. I've not found any of that data, but it does exist for subacute. And even then, that's not very definitive. So subacute thyroiditis, it's really self-limiting. If someone does take anti-inflammatories like this woman did, it does go away. However, there is a known rate of spontaneous recurrence. So a few percent of people can have it come back, in which case it tends to be milder and go away on its own. Altogether, in this case, there was really no mechanism known by which ginger could have affected this. We know a lot about what ginger does do in the body, but none of those things that it does are at all related to the way subacute thyroiditis comes on. So the best evaluation is that this case really was more likely to be coincidence and not correlation. Had she not consumed ginger, she probably still would have had that condition come on. And the fact that it came on afterward, that is also improbable. But if you think about it, with 7 billion people on the planet doing a whole lot of stuff every day, things that would occur 1 time per billion will happen on a daily basis. 7 times a day will happen, things that are as rare as 1 in a billion. So the improbable things are inevitable given large populations. So if there were some tie-in, or if there were some other case reports that were similar, or like some way in which ginger worked in the body that related to subacute thyroiditis, it might be worth thinking about. But altogether, no, I think there's no correlation for that scenario. So what do we know about ginger? It's a good thing. It's actually one of the true superfoods that's out there. A fun little fact is that ginger, we talk about ginger root. There's not the root that we're using. We're using the rhizome, which is part of the stem. Kind of a cool thing too is the stem, the root that you buy from the grocery store, you can plant that. You can actually just put that in dirt and water it, and we can see soil grow from that. In terms of toxicology, it's pretty much right there with carrots as far as how toxic it is. Yes, you could get too much, but more so as a matter of being an irritant than a matter of being a toxicant at realistic dosages. So we've got a lot of human studies about ginger being useful. Obesity, there's been papers showing that it helps the rate of thermogenesis, it increases lipolysis, fat breakdown, it suppresses lipogenesis, fat formation. It also can lower intestinal fat absorption, and it may improve appetite. Ginger can help metabolic syndrome, tendencies towards diabetes. Ginger may benefit sports performance. Ginger can reduce nausea and vomiting from chemotherapy or from pregnancy. It's also protective for the intestinal tract. So if someone is taking aspirin or non-steroidal anti-inflammatories with ginger, they're more apt to get intestinal damage than they take it without. Ginger can also lower pain, cut the risk of cardiovascular disease, and protect against side effects from radiation. So pretty cool stuff. And that's just a short list of things that actual human studies have shown that ginger can help with. How do you use this stuff? Ginger tea is awesome. Recipes, you can put it in so many recipes. It's classic in many Asian recipes, many desserts, many things that have fish or poultry. My favorite way is to keep some of the stem in the freezer, because when you buy it, you don't always use it fast enough to use it all up before it goes bad. But if you freeze it, it keeps for a long time. Then I just take a microplaner and just shave off as much as I need and throw it back in the freezer afterward. Dried versus fresh. Most of the data we have is on dried ginger. However, they're quite similar. Dried is a little bit higher in shogaol, which is one of the compounds in it known to be most cancer preventive. The fresh is a little higher in gingerol, which is where a lot of the benefits show up from. Yet dried has gingerol as well. So you can't really go wrong with that. They're a little different in their culinary properties. So if you swap out one for the other, know that they're not equal amounts. And here's a closing recipe for some homemade ginger ale that I like to do. So take about 1.5 cups of ginger root. We now know it's not a root. Peel it, chop it up small. This is about 1/2 pound, so a pretty fair amount. Get 2 cups of water. Think about your preferred sweetener. I like allulose, stevia, lohan, xylitol. They can work too for this. You'll want a chilled quart of mineral water and about 3 tablespoons of lime juice ready. And basically you just simmer the ginger in the 2 cups of water for about 40 minutes. Let it cover, let it sit for another 20 minutes. So you want to really get the ginger steeped and distilled into the water. Strain out the ginger, put that back in the pan, add in all the rest of your ingredients. refrigerate that and serve it, and you're good to go. You got some awesome, fresh, homemade ginger ale. So ginger, good stuff and safe for your thyroid. Dr. C with you here. You take good care. Bye-bye.